Hi, this is Kim Bouse with the Young Scholar Academy. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about rounding. We're going to work on kind of the steps that you can use if you're a beginning rounder. Down in the description, you're going to find a packet. If you would like to follow along with me, you can use the packet and also complete the packet with me as I get going. So let's start here. So first of all, I want to start off by talking about rounding in general, just as a reminder before we just work on the process, okay? So when you're rounding, you are trying to decide what a number is closer to, okay? So for example, let's say that you went to a concert, and in the concert, there was a bunch of people, and somebody said, well, about how many were there? And you said, well, there was about 5,000. You're rounding. That is not the exact amount, correct? You, as a matter of fact, have rounded to the thousands place. And then somebody says, well, can you give me a little closer? Like, is that like, over 5,000, under 5,000? What are we talking here? And you say, well, actually, it was 4,600 about. So now you have rounded to hundreds place, and you've told them it's about 4,600. Okay. Now they say they want an even more exact number. You go and look up the stats and you say, well, it was about 4,620. And they give you that look like, really? You can't get all the way specific there. And I'm going to underline because that time you rounded to tens. Okay. And then you go, well, okay, the exact number of people that were at the concert were 4,621 people. Okay. It is much easier to say about 5,000. But as mathematicians, we need to know how to give it when it's rounded to the nearest hundreds or the nearest tens. Okay. If we are given a number. So that is what we're going to work on. What do you do? Now, this is what I always tell my kiddos, and just a reminder of what you're actually doing. Okay. If I have the number, let's say 36, okay. So my house is sitting right over here at 30. It's the tens that I pass on my way to get to 36. I am trying to get to the playground that belongs at 40. Okay. The halfway point there is 35. 5 is halfway between 0 and 10. Okay. So we've got 35. Okay. So 36 is sitting about right here. So let's pretend you are walking along, do 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 do, right? And all of a sudden you get to number 36 and you go, uh-oh, mama, I gotta go potty. And like I gotta go potty now. It's an emergency. The question you ask yourself is, will it be faster for you to just go ahead and keep walking and get to the playground where there's a bathroom? Or should you turn around and go back? Well, you are definitely closer if you keep walking, right? There's only a few more steps, 37, 38, 39, 40, and you're there. If you went backwards, you would have to go 6 steps to get all the way back home. So you round up, you go up. That's what you're doing with numbers. You're trying to decide, is my number closer to the tens or the hundreds that are above it, or the tens or hundreds that's below it? Okay. Now, what if I said 35 instead of 36? That means you're exactly halfway. Well, the whole point is to get to the playground, right? So you can either take 5 steps and go back home and then have to turn around and take 10 steps to get back, or you could just go 5 steps to get to the playground. So as soon as you reach the halfway point, you always want to go ahead and go up. You want to get to your destination. Okay. So the next important thing that you need to keep in mind while you're rounding is 5 is your friend. It's halfway, okay? So if you are going from 20 to 30, 25 is halfway. If you're going from 200 to 300, 250 is halfway. And if you are going from, let's say, 3,000 to 4,000, then 3,500 is halfway. 5 is always going to tell you you're halfway. So 5 is the magic number to know to keep walking and get to the playground, right? So that you can go to the bathroom the fastest way and still get to your destination. Okay. So keeping all of that in mind, that's the why, right? Now I'm going to show you how to solve the problems until it becomes kind of second nature to you and you can visualize it. Because for some people, that's hard to visualize. For some people, you go, oh, yeah, I can totally see that in my head. And it's easy. For other people, it's not. So let's talk about what you do. Okay. So if we are rounding to the nearest tens, and I give you the number 63. Okay. So you have to come up with your options. If you're rounding to the nearest tens, what's the tens you just passed when you were counting? If you had been counting up 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, you get to 63. The next tens is 70. So you're trying to decide, is it closer to 60 or 70? Okay. Those of you that can visualize it already, you're looking at it and going, I know what the answer is, but what if you don't? So this is my strategy. Okay. Step 1, underline the digit that you are rounding. It says tens, I'm underlining the tens. Okay. That number either stays the same for 60 or it goes up 1, 70. This right here is your bossy neighbor that's going to tell you what to do. All right. If this number is 0 to 4, then you get to stay at 60. If it is 5 to 9, you need to go ahead and go up to 70. So the 3 tells us to keep the 6. So the 6 stays the same. Everything after it becomes a 0. Let's do another one, and then we're going to go to our worksheets. Okay. What about 58? Okay. Still, we're rounding to tens. Underline the tens place. Let the bossy neighbor decide. 8 is 5 or more. So we need to go up 1 to 6. Everything zeroes out afterwards. So it rounds to 60. All right. So now let's work on that first worksheet. Okay. So this is the worksheet. First worksheet in the packet. All right. We're rounding to tens. Okay. Did I just do the same one? We're going to do it anyway. Okay. Y'all see the sunshine coming in through my window? Isn't that lovely? Let me see if I can get it though so that it's not messing up our video. There we go. All right. Rounding to tens. So I'm going to underline tens. And if you need to write it up here to remind yourself 0 through 4, you're going to stay the same. That tens is going to stay the same. And if it's 5 through 9, go up 1. You don't have to write that, but if that helps you remember. Okay, it's a 3. Bossy neighbor's a 3. The bossy neighbor is not 5 or more, so it says stay. So the 6 stays a 6. Everything else becomes a 0. My cute purple marker that's supposed to match our worksheet is going to end up dying on me. Well, that just stinks. Okay, underline your tens. The 2 decides. If it's 5 or higher, we go up. Is it 5 or higher? No, it's not. So the 5 stays the same. Everything else goes to 0. 50. Now, if you can visualize it, go for it. But if you're needing that concrete, what steps, what do I do? This is what you do. Ready? 10's. Let's underline our 10's. Here's the bossy neighbor is a 7. Is the 7 5 or more? It sure is. So we have to add 1. Add 1 to 2 makes it a 3. Okay? And then we still go to zeros. Okay, try this one on your own. I'm not going to talk you through it. You ready? Okay, we're rounding to 10's. The bossy neighbor is 5 or more. So I'm going to add 1 to my 10's and make it a 9 and make everything else a 0. Did you get it? Excellent. Let's do the next one. Underline your 10's. Bossy neighbor. It's 5 or more. So the 10's goes up. You 0 out. Now, this is the point where some of my students will say, I don't get it. And I understand. Sometimes you just have to do something repeatedly until you become really good at the process. And then you can keep working on the understanding part. Okay? It's okay not to understand the why. Practice the steps. Okay? Until the why comes along. You do need to know the why, but sometimes you got to practice the steps, and it's okay to have to practice it 1,000 times. It's okay. Sometimes we have to. Okay? Next, underline the 10's. Bossy neighbor. Is it 5 or more? No, it is not. So that 1 gets to stay the same, and everything goes to 0. Underline the 10's. Dot under the bossy neighbor. The bossy neighbor is not 5 or more, so the 4 stays the same, and everything else zeroes out. Okay? So now you have 3 more that you can do on your own and check it with the packet. I've included the answer keys. Okay? I want you now switch to page 2. Uh-oh. You're wanting me to round to 10's, but this number is 637. It's okay. You still are only looking at the 10's and the bossy neighbor. Everything in front of it just stays the same, unless you need to move it. I'll show you later what I mean, but most of the time it just stays the same. So again, we look. We're rounding 10's. The bossy neighbor is 5 or more, so it's going to tell the 3 to become a 4. Everything in front of it stays the same. Everything after it becomes 0. It rounds to 640. 725. You guys know you can pause this video anytime you need to slow down, right? Or you can even move the playback speed slower or faster, depending on how you're doing. Okay? So again, we're still rounding to 10. So let's underline the 10's. Bossy neighbor. Is the bossy neighbor 5 or more? Yes, it is. So that 2 has to become a 3. The 7 stays the same. The 5 becomes a 0. I'm really pushing this marker because I want it cute. We need cuteness, don't we? Not just rounding. We need cuteness, not just smartness. Okay, 272. The 7 is in the 10's place. The 2 is the bossy neighbor, but it is not 5 or more. So the 7 gets to stay the same. The numbers in front stays the same. The numbers afterwards go to 0. Ready for number 4? Underline your 10's. Dot under the bossy neighbor. 8 is 5 or more. So the 6 becomes a 7. 3 stays the same. 8 becomes a 0. It rounds to 370. One more, and then we're going to move on to hundreds. Okay, so 529. Underline your 10's. Bossy neighbor. Bossy neighbor is 5 or higher, so it tells the 2 to become a 3. 5 stays the same. The 9 becomes a 0. 530. Okay, now you can finish this up and check your work with the answer key. All right. So what if we're rounding to hundreds? Okay. It's the exact same thing. You underline the place, which is now hundreds, and the neighbor right next door is Mr. Bossy Pants. Same process, same strategy. Okay. It's exactly the same no matter where we move it. So 6 is your hundreds. 3 is the bossy neighbor. That is not 5 or higher. So the 6 stays the same, but now you've got 2 numbers that get zeroed out. So 637 rounds to 600. And you're right, because 650 is halfway. 637 isn't halfway, is it? Okay, what about 725? 700. 2 is the bossy neighbor. 2 is not 5 or more. So the 7 gets to stay the same. Everything else goes to zeros. Voila. Mwah-ah-ah. Ready? 2 is the hundreds. 7's the neighbor. 7, Mr. Bossy Pants says, move on up, baby. I am 5 or more. So the 2 becomes a 3. You zero them out. And now we're to 368. The last one I'm going to do with you on this page. So 300 is what we underline. That's what we're rounding. The 6 is going to tell us what to do. Mr. Bossy Pants is 5 or more. So he says, move it up. 3, go on up to the 4. The next 2 numbers get zeroed out. So now the same thing. What if we're rounding to hundreds, but it's a thousands number? For example, 1,763. So we're still rounding to hundreds. So you still underline the hundreds. You put your dot under Mr. Bossy Pants right next door. The 6 is 5 or higher. So it tells the 7 to go up to an 8. Just like when we did the hundreds, the 1 stays the same. Everything after it zeroes out. And double check yourself. Is there 4 numbers? 4 numbers. You should have the same amount of numbers. Okay? So here we go. We're rounding to hundreds. We underline our hundreds. We put a dot under bossy neighbor. Bossy neighbor is 5 or higher. So the 5 becomes a 6. 7 stays the same. The last 2 digits zero out. Ready? I think you've got this. I think you've got this. Let's do it. Hundreds, bossy neighbor. Bossy neighbor is below 5. So 2 gets to stay the same. The 2 in front and the 2 zeros at the end. 2 more and we're going to stop. Okay. So now you have the hundreds, the bossy neighbor. The 3 is not 5 or higher. So 8 gets to stay. And so does the 8 in front of it. And the 2 zeros at the end. Now we have a special one. 9's. 9's can be tricky, but we can do this. We can talk through it. You ready? So underline your 9 for your hundreds. Put a dot underneath the 5. The 5 tells us to go up, right? So the 9 becomes a 10. Whoa, wait, hold on. Becomes a 10, but you can only put one digit per place, right? So if the 9 becomes a 10, I got to put the 0 down and carry the 1, just like you would in addition. And now you have 9 and 1. What's 9 and 1? Yeah, it's 10. That's right. So now I'm going to go ahead and mark these out because that's what they would become when we rounded, right? You got 10,000. And you can do it that way. Let me show you on this one, just in case. Okay, I said the last one more. So watch here. If you have the 4 and the 3, if it helps you, this 3 tells the 4 to stay the same. Put the 4 right above it. Bring your 3 up and it stays the same. The other two numbers go to 0. Now you can copy it over. If that makes more sense to you, by golly, by gosh, you do it, right? Going back to this one, 952, 9,952. So we were trying to decide, is that closer to 9,900 or 10,000? Because when you're counting by hundreds, right? 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000. The 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000. You get to those numbers by counting by hundreds. So 900, 9,900 or 10,000. Okay, do the rest of it. The answer key is in the packet. You've got this. Keep practicing. Do not get discouraged. Do you hear me? And I will see you next time.